yesterday with a bloody thing. Well, folks, give me a second, I seem to have lost my phone. I'll be right with you. The hell did I do with that? Another bloody thing there. Sorry about that, folks. I need to get my telephone to be able to get the Facebook comments up. Right. Sorry about that, folks. I need to get my telephone to be able to get the Facebook. Okay, good morning, folks. I'll get my glasses on. And nice to see you all with us again this morning after yesterday's depressing broadcast. So, anyway, here we go. Give you a chance for a few years to get on board. Welcome Bob, welcome Karen, welcome Maggie, welcome BJ, welcome Jane, welcome Sandra, welcome Steve, Lenny, Scott, William, Stephen, Mr. E, Evelyn, Thomas Harmon, Thomas, Brian, Alistair, who else we got? Melanie, Kate, good morning Elizabeth, how's Duisburg this morning? Morning Ruth, morning Stephen, morning John, morning Mary, morning Joan. Okay, there's more than 100 on board, so let's get this broadcast underway. Cindy Truck Davy out the truck and at home in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it's a beautiful morning, 7 degrees, wee bit chilly, but hey ho, no bad for this time of year. Alright, now this is the news review from the colony of Scotland for the 24th of the 11th, 2022. Now, Thursday started with only one main team in the rags. Our Imperial Masters Supreme Court rules Scots not entitled to self-determination because the outcome may impinge on Westminster's control over Scotland's people and the assets of Scotland. The ruling is an abomination and makes Scots and their nation a prisoner in this so-called voluntary union. It also makes clear, contrary to the Supreme Court's rulings, claim that Scotland is a colony for Westminster's exploitation. Now, while Unionist MPs celebrate and demand Scots give up their right to self-determination, not going to happen. The people of England and Wales don't realise that their imperial masters are stripping their democratic rights and their democracy is being undermined by the Police, Crimes, Courts and Sentencing Bill and the new Public Order Bill, which denies the people of England and Wales their democratic right to protest. Scotland a prisoner in the Union, and England and Welsh citizens' democratic rights to protest are being removed. Now, part of the judgment yesterday, on Wednesday by the Supreme Court, had nothing to do with devolution at all. It had to do with a bill passed in Westminster called the National Security Bill, which makes it illegal for any party, any group, any person to undermine the economic security and border security of the United Kingdom. And under the 2003 Terrorist Act could make us all terrorists. So the real reason why Scotland, the Supreme Court ruled that Scotland could not leave the Union was because it would impinge on Westminster's sovereignty over the people of Scotland and their assets. So Scotland is clearly a nation, a colony for exploitation, and England and Wales' democratic rights are also being stripped away. Fascism has arrived in the UK. It came with its slippers on, but it's getting its hobnail boots and its fascist shirts on rapidly. Okay, let's move on. Thursday, and down that road, our Imperial Masters, there's are at civil war with each other within the Imperial Tory party. Now, this goes on with Bojo and Liz Truss entering the fray to thwart our Imperial leaders, Rishi Sunak's levelling up bill. Firstly, 50 Tory MPs draw a halt to the progress of the bill, demanding that housing targets be removed. And now Bojo and Truss sign an amendment to the levelling up bill to allow onshore wind and solar to go ahead in England. Apparently, Labour would back Bojo and Truss's amendment, so problems at mill for our Imperial leader, Rishi Sunak. Okay, moving on and down that road. The Deputy Imperial ruler, Dominic Raab, faces new bullying claims as Sunak appoints top lawyer to investigate claims Raab bullied staff while Justice Secretary. Adam Tory, KC, will report back to Sunak on whether he thinks Raab is guilty of bullying. Now, this is all very strange. Why was this a lawyer appointed to look into this? Is that not what we have standards in the Public Life Committee for? So it appears that Sunak has employed a friend to tell us that his Deputy Prime Minister, the bully, isn't a bully. Okay, also, down that road, embarrassment for our Imperial Masters in the Tory party as migration into the UK reaches a record high, with 504,000 non-EU migrants entering the UK. This figure does not include asylum seekers entering the UK in small boats. This leads to Cruella drown kids on Beachman to say she'll crack down on the number of foreign students entering the UK. There goes a lucrative revenue stream for the UK and Scottish university sector. I wonder how the racist Gammon Brexiteer voters will view the news that white EU migration has been cut off, but Middle Eastern and Far Eastern migration is up. Okay, also Thursday, more trouble for the Home Office Minister, Imperial Master Cruella. I'll stop small boats in the channel, drown them all. Man, as the number of unprocessed asylum claims reach 140,000. Labour say the system is in meltdown and needs serious politicians and serious policies to sort it out. 77% of applicants are granted leave to stay in the UK when they put their asylum claims in. But so far, it takes about 4 years to get a decision. Okay. Now, out of those who fail the initial asylum, attempt to get asylum, out of those who fail, that would be the 33%, 52% of those win asylum on appeal. So it would appear that Brexit and taking back control has not seen a drop in migration to the UK. It has seen an increase in migration to the UK. Absolutely mental. I don't know what's going on here, folks, but same as yesterday. I'm seeing who's on Facebook, but I'm not seeing comments. It must have to do with a bandwidth, because when I stopped the video yesterday, all the comments were there. Right, moving on. Moving on, Thursday, and down that road, more internal strife for our Imperial Masters in the Tory party. It comes to light that it was Chancellor Jeremy the Tory Hunt who went behind Sunak's back to talk to the EU about a Swiss-style deal. Okay. Anyway, it was Hunt that asked the European Union if the UK could have a Swiss-style deal behind Sunak's back, and apparently the EU said no. All right. So, trouble between the Chancellor and our Imperial leader, Rishi Sunak, because the Chancellor went behind his Imperial master and went and begged Europe for a new deal. Okay, let's move on. Also Thursday, down that road in the House of Thieves, the Imperial House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers, the Partygate investigation into Bojo the Clown held up for 4 months as Number 10 drags heels on releasing reams of documents and evidence relating to the matter. Now, this will delay the outcome of the Privilege Committee's investigation into Bojo, and it also means there'll be a 46-month delay before Bojo the Clown will be called in front of the committee to give evidence. Why the delay? Well, let's face it, over the last 4 months with 3 Prime Ministers, we need Number 10 to authorise the release of the bloody stuff, is there? So, the Privileges Committee, who's trying to decide whether Bojo deliberately misled the Parliament or all these parties, well, it would appear that we won't get the result for at least another year to come. Okay, moving on. On Thursday, down that road, Northern Ireland's Imperial Master, or one of them, Steve Baker, wants to renegotiate the NI agreement. What unions today at the Northern Ireland may not know is that the EU withdrawal agreement put the NI protocols and Northern Ireland's position in the UK into the withdrawal agreement and not into Bojo the Clown's threadbare trade deal with the EU. Now, the reason why Northern Ireland protocols went into the withdrawal agreement was because at the time Theresa May was trying to put in a backstop to keep us all within the single market and the customs union, but the Westminster politicians couldn't agree with it. So it was decided that Northern Ireland would be annexed by the EU. So, technically speaking, Northern Ireland has been annexed by the EU. You'll remember this being said at the time by some unionist politicians that Northern Ireland was being annexed by the EU. Well, apparently that's the case, and Steve Baker wants to reopen the negotiations to move annexed Northern Ireland from the EU and judgments of the European Court of Justice back to the UK and move the protocols into the trade deal. Not going to happen. EU's not going to accept it. But what's quite enlightening to find out that actually the Northern Irish People's Imperial Master in Westminster threw them under a bus and allowed the EU to annex them in order that little England could have its hard Brexit. So much for unionism. Moving on, Thursday. Let's move back to the colony of Scotland. Okay. Thursday started here in the colony of Scotland on the BBC Colonial Pravda, who were setting up First Minister's questions for the cuckoos in the nest. The cuckoos in the nest did not want to face the First Minister on the Supreme Court ruling, so the Colonial Broadcasting Company set up their made-up story of NHS managers discussing charging for services for rich people. Once again, the First Minister has to remind the Pravda that NHS managers do not set policy, and their story was bogus. Okay, moving on. Thursday. And here in the colony of Scotland, teachers are on strike, and their trade union EIS dismisses the latest pay offer and saying it's a rehash of earlier offers. So no much chance here. No much chance of an end to the strike action for teachers anytime soon, apparently. But the next strikes are not scheduled for with the EIS until January. The Scottish Secondary School Teachers Association have got 2 strikes scheduled for December. I think it's the 8th and 9th of December, or it could be 10th and 11th. Can't make up at that way. But I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments. Right, moving on Thursday. Also here in the colony of Scotland, RMT workers and their end their dispute with the ScotRail and accept a similar offer to the ambulance service, who also settled their dispute with the Scottish Government yesterday. Both the RMT and the ambulance service have agreed on 7.5% pay rises. Okay. Right. Moving on. Thursday, and here in the colony of Scotland, First Minister's Questions is on. First up is Dross, and he and Sarwar go on the same story. The story of NHS managers. A throwaway suggestion that the NHS would charge wealthy for services. The First Minister tells the half-wit NHS managers do not make policy. The idiot then goes on to ask the First Minister who gave the green light for NHS managers to discuss NHS issues. The First Minister tells the idiot that the Scottish Government is not in the business of telling people what they can and cannot discuss at work. Mental. Dross then goes on the amount of people paying for private procedures because of the backlogs in the NHS created by the pandemic, of course. The First Minister looks a little confused at the idiot. So it would appear she is supposed to tell NHS staffers what they can and can't talk about at work, and now she's to tell people, rich people, or any people actually, what they can and can't spend their money on. Mental. The First Minister rips the wee twit a new one and tells Dross she'll take no lessons on privatising the NHS for Dross, because the SNP, unlike the Tories in England, ended privatisation of NHS services, which was taking place under Labour in Scotland. Dross got his bahookie scalp and sent to the naughty step. All right. It was too easy for a First Minister. I don't think Dross will be the Tory party leader here in Scotland for very much longer with these crap performances in First Minister's Questions. All right, next up was Poverty Pie Sarwar, and he goes on the same thing, claiming people are taking out loans and remortgaging their homes to pay for private treatment due to waiting times. The First Minister tells Poverty Pie, hey, stupid, elective surgeries were halted for almost 2 years due to pandemic, you spanner. She then tells him she'll take no lessons on privatisation of the NHS, as she, as Health Minister, reversed the privatisation and outsourcing of services his party had introduced. She also tells him that more people in NHS Wales are choosing to spend their money going private than in Scotland. The First Minister also says she brought 2 hospitals back into public hands because Labour had privatised them. All right, Labour had sold them after the private sector. Stracathro Hospital, I can't remember what the other one is off the top of my head. Anyway, there's a Davies says here. I don't know if you know this, but I was reminded of this by Lorna MacDonald yesterday. Do you know that NHS here in the UK, NHS Scotland, NHS Wales, NHS England, and NHS Northern Ireland used to offer private service for cash to bolster the NHS budget? Within the NHS, of course, you get a private room. You could get speedier treatment if you had the money. You could go to the NHS and offer to pay for your elective surgeries. But the Tory party and the Labour party didn't like that. So they introduced laws allowing private medical insurance companies and private hospitals to prosper, taking that lucrative extra work that was going into the NHS to bolster NHS budgets out of the hands of the NHS. Now, we've always had the 2-tier system here. Okay. Madam Director's bugging off to the shop to get juice, apparently. Anyway, so there you have it, folks. We've always had a 2-tier system. Even when there was only the NHS available, you could pay the NHS, and that would bolster their budgets. But that was all changed under Tory and Labour, and that's why we have the private hospitals we'll go to. Like I said, I was driving into Edinburgh the other day there, and on my way in, I passed a Bupa dental practice, and I passed a Bupa GP practice. There you go. Right, moving on, Thursday. So Labour's and Tory Labour's and Tory actually took that valuable revenue stream away from NHS Scotland, England, Wales and Northern Ireland. So Poverty Peg gets his bahookie slapped and sent to the naughty step to join the other idiot. Alright, moving on. Thursday, here in the colony of Scotland, NHS workers offered 7.5% pay rise to settle pay dispute. Trade union Unison to recommend offer to staff as best deal that could be negotiated within Scotland's restricted budget. So it looks like there could be an avoidance of strike action when it comes to porters, cleaners, caterers, that sort of thing within the NHS. The nurses is a different dispute. We'll see how that line goes. Right, moving on Thursday, and here in the colony of Scotland, Highland and Island councils to introduce 20-mile-an-hour speed limit to 114 locations across the region. The restrictions would cover 367 miles of road or 590 kilometres for the younger viewers. Transport Scotland had asked Highlands and Islands councils to roll out their policy as the Scottish Government wants to restrict speed in built-up areas. I don't know how that applies to Highlands and Islands, but there you go. Now, there are some towns in that up there. Okay. Right, moving on. Thursday, and my final story is back down in the Imperial Masters House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers in Westminster. Anyway, for my final story, a Red Tory Imperial Master, Sir Comrade Starmer, demands inquiry as it comes to light that Scottish Tory peer, Lady Moan of the Bra, made 29 million from illegal VIP lane PPE contracts. That's why the Imperial Parliament in Londongrad is called the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers, because whether it's the red or the blue Tories that are in office, the minute they get in, they start thieving from the public purse. Okay. Right, they're the stories I picked out to speak about yesterday. I hope you found them informative, and I hope you found the delivery to be entertaining. So, more turmoil down that road in the Imperial House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers. The civil war within the Tory party goes on. So, more crap in an already chaotic situation that is seeing people go hungry and freezing their hooses, that sees children going to bed hungry at night, and that have seen us cut off our biggest markets, creating economic chaos. So, as I say, they're the stories I decided to pick out for you. And of course, to my surprise yesterday, when the Pravda was setting up FMQs, they didn't go on the big story. But I said on yesterday on my alternative programme, when I was talking about political realities, we can expect the press to absolutely drop any mention of independence or any mention of anything other than a SNP shite Scottish Government bad. That's the news going forward. There'll be no more mention of Scotland being a colony, of us being second-class citizens, or of our democracy being denied. So it would appear the world's moving on, and because there was no uproar at Scotland's democracy being denied, it would appear the international community is no fucking interested either. Because I have my copy of the National there this morning, and it has a box top for Round the Planet and what other people were saying. Basically what they're saying is, it's not the end yet. Ta-da! But they were not impressed. They were expecting, I think the international community were expecting an uproar here in Scotland, and it didn't happen. People didn't take to the streets to defend their democracy. Okay, let's have a wee look and see what the rags have got to say this morning, huh? Right, let's see what pisses in the Imperial Masters press outlets this morning. So where will we start? Well, there's a couple of papers that are missed this morning. Right-wing knuckle-dragging paper, the Daily Fail's no there, and I'm afraid we've no Star this morning either. All right, so Scotland's paper. Final offer to NHS staff and moan PPE row. The Scotsman has £515 million best and final pay offered to stop NHS strikes. Well, you know, the rail settled for 7.5, the police settled for 5, and ancillary workers within the NHS have settled for 7.5. Let's hope the nurses and the teachers can come on board with that. All right, the Herald has revealed 5-point vision to revive Scots high streets. And apparently some boffins come up for a plan to revive Scots high streets. The Metro has ScotRail strike over. Train staff accept new deal. A series of planned Christmas walkouts are averted. The Looney Rag, the Daily Express has thousands hit streets in winter strike discord. And this is about the teachers' strike yesterday. The Rancid has moaned PPE millions row. The Times has foreign students face ban from universities. That's going to go down well, isn't it? The university sector finds the foreign market lucrative. But because they need to clamp down on immigration, apparently foreign students won't be allowed access to universities unless they're top grades and gone to a top grade university. So smaller universities will lose that revenue stream. The Eye has student visa crackdown set to spark major cabinet row. So more chaos in the House of Thieves and carpetbaggers. Oh no, the Daily Field there. Sorry, I must have got this wrong. The Scottish Daily Field has Police Chief's warning over civil unrest. Apparently we're all going to start burning the house down because of the Supreme Court's ruling. And what it says is, Police Chief Sir Ian Livingston has warned the country is facing potential breakdown in social cohesion amid the cost of living crisis and constitutional uncertainty. The Daily Field reports. Okay, the National has questions over Tory's dodgy bevy sessions at Holyrood. It also has Joanne Cherry, issue of whether we use UK or Scottish elections as de facto referendum needs careful thought. Well, I've said that myself. You know, I prefer to see it as a Scottish parliamentary election. The Daily Telegraph has Johnson and Truss in planning rebellion. Sturgeon accused of Trump tactics over India F2. Well, that's because Trump claimed that the last US election democracy was stolen. First Minister's no saying democracy was stolen. So that headline's a pile of pish. What the First Minister's actually saying is democracy is being denied. That's a different thing altogether. And that's it. No start today, folks. So that's it for the day. Now, I want to, before I finish, I want to just say something and make it clear. All right. Now, I put my head above the parapet to get shot at. And I am being shot at the moment because I pointed out to certain noisy people on Facebook that the Alpha Party are a political irrelevance in Scotland at this point in time. They, of course, took that to mean that I was being down in the Alpha Party. I'm not being down in the Alpha Party. I don't know how many times I've got to say this. I deal in political realities. The political reality is that they don't have any elected representatives. They're even less relevant in Scotland than the Liberal Democrats. And check back with me in 50 or 70 years, because that's how long it took the SNP to make a breakthrough. That's all I'm pointing out. But for pointing out realities and facts, I'm getting shot doing it. And apparently, my egos get too big for me. So, folks, if my egos get too big and you think I'm trying to make a public celebrity of myself, I won't take your money. I don't do many public speaking events. I don't put myself out there apart from here, where you get a chance to shoot me down. Then I'll shut this down if you want. So anybody thinks I should end these broadcasts, please leave it in the comments. Anybody thinks that I'm doing this for an ego trip, please put it in the comments. But it's not going to stop me stating political realities. The political reality is at this point in time, the Alpha Party, who are welcoming our democracy, are a non-entity. The Lib Dems have got more representation in Scotland. In fact, the Alpha Party doesn't have any representation in Scotland. None. They've got 6,000 noisy members, and apparently that number is dropping. I'm still going to point out political realities. Simple as that. So if people in the Alpha Party want to have a pop at me for telling the bloody truth, go ahead, I don't care. I'm not in this for an ego trip. I'm in this to report the truth to you people, as I see it. Don't need to like it. Don't even have to watch it. I'm not asking you to. But you who do watch it and do like it, the only thing I ask of you is share it if you think it's important. I don't even share it myself. So how can I be on an ego trip if I don't share it? I'm just putting out a programme with my opinion on it each day. That's it. But if you would rather have stopped, folks, because apparently I'm on an ego trip, please leave that in the comments. Okay? So, Alpha Party, you're more than welcome to make as much noise as you like. All 6,000 of yous. But don't expect us not to point out the reality that you're pissing in the wind because nobody's listening. But keep pissing in the wind, because in 30 to 50 years' time, I'll not be around to see it, but you might actually break through. So just keep pissing in the wind. Alright. And you can have a pop at me all you want. I'll just keep pointing out the facts. The facts is out of 2.5 million, because, 2.25 million, because we're supposed to be 50-50 in the polls, remember? Out of 2.5 million yes supporters, you're 6,000. We no elected representatives whatsoever. And here's another prediction, because I predicted the last two elections with the Alpha Party correct. So let me make this clear. Here's Davies' prediction for the next general election in a few years' time. The two people who are in the Alpha Party in Westminster that walk the floor for the SNP, I'm going down the bookies, put a tenner on both of them losing their seats. Simple as that. I don't deal in fantasy politics. And when I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong. I was wrong on the Supreme Court thing. I thought they would sit in the fence. But I was wrong. I'm quite happy to admit when I'm wrong. But if you think I'm on an ego trip, folks, the audience, please let me know and I'll stop. But up until then, I'm not going to stop. And as you can see, I've got my candle lit for democracy, as I said I was going. And to celebrate European solidarity with people of Scotland. And once again, I'll thank Jill for the gift. I will sit there next to the naughty step with a wee light on for our democratic rights and our fight for our democratic voices to be heard. And Alpha Party, you are welcome to fight for your voice to be heard as well. Nobody's bloody listening, but you're welcome to fight for your rights to be, for your voice to be heard. But don't expect me not to point out the realities while you're stamping your feet and making a lot of noise. There's 6,000 of you at 2.25 million is. You're in irrelevance. Come back and check with me in 30 years if I'm still alive and we'll check where you are then. Okay. But here's a prediction. 2024-2025 election, McCaskill and Henby will lose their seats. They're a pair of... One's a political has-been, the other one's a political lightweight, so what's the difference? That's what I've got for you today, folks. I hope you found it informative. I hope you found it interesting. Okay. Now remember, folks, keep your eyes on the prize. Winning that prize just got more difficult. It really did. And we need cohesion. And the reason why the Alpha Party is being mentioned is because 6,000 people are screaming for the most popular First Minister in the history of devolution has to resign because of a Supreme Court ruling, apparently. And apparently as well, that the most popular leader that the Scottish National Party has ever had, including Mr. Salmon, should stand down because of a ruling that she went to get clarity on Scotland's situation for us. For. The ruling makes no odds to us. We march forward. But that's just the way it goes. So, that's it for the day. Remember, Support the independent media, support broadcasting Scotland, support Independence Live, support Indie Live Radio, support Caledon Media. Norrie does a cracking wee rant and all. And support Trues Radio, support the iScot magazine, support the national newspaper, support independent bloggers and bloggers. And if they have a crowdfunder on the go and you've got a few shekels to spare, throw them in the pot. All right, these people do great work. As you know, I don't want your money. And I don't share my own videos, so this ego trip thing, I don't know anything about it. As usual, if you like what I do and you like what the two Davies do, share it around. If you don't like it, it's up to you. Okay. All right. But I put my head above the parapet. I make these programs to be shot at. I'm quite happy to take it. But I will issue a challenge to Alpha Party members. I will debate with any of them in any forum, including Alex Salmon, on the relevance of Scottish politics today. Because they are irrelevant. They have no elected representatives here in Scotland. They've got even less relevance than the irrelevant Liberal Democrats. Okay. Now, I'm going to put this one up for bro. All right. And I'll say this again, what I said yesterday. If you want people to understand that there is an appetite for independence in Scotland, 2.5 million independent supporters join the SNP. Why? Because it can't be denied. If the SNP have 2.25 million members, then the will of the Scottish people can't be denied because it's verified by the Electoral Commission, the amount of members. So hold your nose and pay your fiver. No, even I like all the SNP policies, and I've been a member for a long time. Okay. For example, me and Milligan are about to follow up with our own party over whether it should be a plebiscite election at the next general election for Westminster, or whether it should be a plebiscite election at the next Scottish election. I don't always agree with the SNP. Hold your nose, pay your membership. 2.25 million members will show an appetite for independence. Okay. Right, remember the last couple of bits of guidance. Face masks in enclosed public spaces, especially as winter comes in. Clean hands and surfaces regularly. And if you're not feeling well, mask up. Show a bit of social consciousness. And look after the citizens round about you. All right. And if you're a member of a health and social care worker, if you're a health and social care worker and you're still using the NHS lateral flow test, please submit your results. We have to track this virus through our communities. Okay, especially as winter's biting. Well, actually, it's not biting. It's bloody mid-November. It's nearly the end of November. We haven't had a frost yet, which is bloody unusual. It's normally snowing here in June. Anyway, you guys have a nice day. Look after yourself, or catch you all later. And if you're on Facebook and you're going to share this, give me a couple of minutes to go to change the settings from friends and family to public, because you know Meta is restricting my reach. Okay. Thanks very much for joining me this morning. This is the last one for this week. I'm not going to promise one on Monday because I never know what's going to happen on Monday. It'll be written. It will be written. But whether I can broadcast it or not is a different matter. You guys look after yourself. Have a great weekend. Look after each other. Okay. Sarah and I wish you all a really good weekend. Say bye, Sarah.